This is Daily Armenia, CivilNet's daily news digest. Here's what's making headlines in Armenia today. The Armenian government approved the draft law on the 2026 state budget today, which will now be sent to the National Assembly for approval. The document projects state revenues of about $8.1 billion and expenditures of $9.4 billion for next year. Finance Minister Vahe said the budget deficit is set at $1.4 billion, or 4.5% of GDP, down 1% from 2025. The shortfall is expected to be financed through both domestic $698 million and external $712 million. According to Hovhannisyan, most of the revenues, around $7.8 billion, will come from taxes and state duties. The government's debt-to-GDP ratio is projected at 53.5% by the end of 2026. The 2026 draft budget also foresees a 15% decrease in defense spending, following last year's 25% surge. Defense expenditures will amount to $1.46 million, which is still slightly higher than in 2024 and nearly double the level of 2021. Speaking about specific programs, Hovhannisyan said housing support for forcibly displaced families from Karabakh will continue, with $143 million allocated for that purpose. He also noted that universal health insurance in Armenia will be introduced next year. Alongside the budget discussions, the government also approved a loan agreement worth about $176 million with the French Development Agency. The funds, provided as budgetary support, will go toward financing the 2025 budget deficit. A Yerevan court found Archbishop Mikayel Ajapahyan, head of the Shirak Diocese of the Armenian Apostolic Church, guilty of making public calls to overthrow the government yesterday. Arrested in June, he now awaits sentencing and faces up to 5 years in prison. According to the indictment, Ajapahyan, who held a senior clerical rank and had significant influence through his public platform, repeatedly voiced appeals in media interviews that prosecutors described as incitement to seize power. The prosecution argued that Ajapahyan used his position and broad following to direct public sentiment against government policies, both domestic and foreign. The ongoing conflict between the Armenian Church and Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan erupted in May when Pashinyan called for the removal of Church's leader, Catholicos Gareken II, accusing him of violating celibacy vows. The latest clash comes amid a broader deterioration of Church-government relations. After Armenia's defeat in the 2020 war, Church leaders openly urged Pashinyan to resign. Last year, Archbishop Bagrat Galstanyan led a nationwide protest movement, also demanding the Prime Minister's ouster. Since then, the government has questioned the Church's legal and financial privileges. Parliamentary Speaker Alen Simonyan suggested last year that the Church should be exempt from taxation only if it complied with stricter oversight, citing widespread shadow incomes. Galstanyan was arrested in June, just 2 days before Ajapahyan, on charges of preparing a violent seizure of power, a terrorist act, and organizing mass riots. His trial remains ongoing. You can also watch our interview with Dr. Alvida King, the niece of Martin Luther King Jr., a renowned civil rights leader. In this interview, Dr. King reflects on her family's legacy, shares her message of faith and unity, and discusses her hopes for Armenia's future. She speaks about the importance of peace, the idea that humanity is one race under God, and the role she played in promoting reconciliation. Watch the full interview in the video description below. And as always, please follow CivilNet for the latest news and independent reporting from our contributors on the ground here in Armenia.